I never told my daughter I was worth nearly $1 million. Why would I? She never asked. For 32 years, I worked as a senior financial analyst at Morrison & Klein, a mid-sized investment firm in downtown Cleveland. My salary was $60,000 a year, not a fortune, but comfortable. I lived in a modest 2-bedroom ranch in Lakewood, drove a 10-year-old Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door, and bought my clothes at Kohl's with a 30% off coupon. Nothing about my life screamed money. That was intentional. My name is Amanda Mitchell. I'm 63 years old, and I learned a long time ago that people treat you differently when they know you have money. Not better differently. They start looking at you like an ATM machine, start calculating what they might get from you. So I kept my financial life private. My small circle of friends knew I was comfortable, but nobody knew the full picture. Not even my daughter Emma. I raised Emma alone after my husband died of a heart attack 20 years ago. She was 22, then fresh out of Ohio State with a marketing degree and her whole life ahead of her. We weren't rich, but we weren't struggling either. I made sure she graduated debt-free, gave her a reliable used car, helped her with first and last month's rent on her apartment. The things a mother does. What I didn't tell her was that her father's life insurance, combined with my careful investing over the years, had grown into something substantial. By the time Emma turned 40, I had $847,000 in savings and investments, a paid-off house worth $310,000, and a pension that would pay $48,000 a year starting next year when I retired. I also had a trust fund I'd set up for Emma when she turned 21, started with $50,000 from my father's estate added to it quietly over the years. Last time I checked, it was worth $127,000. I'd mentioned it to her a few times over the years, always casually. "Don't worry, sweetheart, you've got a safety net if you ever need it." She'd nod and change the subject. Money was always an awkward topic in our family. 3 years ago, Emma married Brandon Taylor. I knew from the first family dinner that something was off about him. He was 45, same age as Emma, and worked as a luxury car salesman at a Mercedes dealership in Beechwood. He wore a Tag Heuer watch that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage, and he had this way of dominating every conversation, loud stories about closing deals, name-dropping clients, talking about his investment strategies. "You know, Amanda," he said to me at their rehearsal dinner, swirling an expensive bourbon, "I've been thinking about getting into cryptocurrency. The volatility is actually an advantage if you know how to play it." I smiled politely and took a sip of my white wine. I'd been managing investment portfolios for 3 decades. I knew more about market volatility than Brandon would ever learn from YouTube videos. But I said nothing. Emma seemed happy, and that was enough for me. I quietly contributed $15,000 toward their wedding, told them it was my mother of the bride contribution. They got married at the Ritz-Carlton in downtown Cleveland, 200 guests, open bar live band. The wedding probably cost $60,000 total. I didn't ask who paid for the rest. After the wedding, I started noticing changes in Emma. She carried a Louis Vuitton handbag to Sunday dinners. Her nails were always freshly done gel manicures every 2 weeks. She posted photos on Facebook of dinners at expensive restaurants, weekend trips to Chicago, and Nashville selfies at the country club. I was happy for her. Brandon seemed to be doing well in sales, and Emma deserved nice things after working hard for years at her marketing job. I'd raised her to be independent, to build her own life. Then 6 months ago, the phone calls started. The first call came on a Tuesday evening in April. I was in my kitchen making dinner, just a simple chicken stir-fry, nothing fancy, when my phone rang. Emma's name lit up the screen. "Hi, sweetheart," I answered, tucking the phone against my shoulder while I chopped vegetables. "Mom," her voice was tight, stressed. "I need to ask you something." I set down my knife. "What's wrong?" "It's Brandon's commission check. It got delayed, some issue with the dealership's payroll system, and our mortgage is due." She paused. "Could you help us out, just $6,000? We'll pay you back as soon as his check clears, probably next week." $6,000. My monthly expenses were maybe $2,500 total. I had that in my checking account. "Of course, honey," I said. "Let me transfer it tomorrow morning." "Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. I knew I could count on you." The relief in her voice made me feel good. Needed. That's what mothers do, right? We help. I transferred the money the next day. Emma texted, "Got it. You're a lifesaver. We'll pay you back soon." 6 weeks later, another call. "Mom, I'm so sorry to ask again, but Brandon's Lexus needs a new transmission. The warranty just expired last month. Can you believe the timing? The repair is $3,500. She sounded embarrassed. We're still waiting on that commission to pay you back from before, but as soon as it comes through— Don't worry about it, I interrupted. I'll send it this afternoon. I'd noticed Brandon had posted photos on Instagram from a golf weekend in Scottsdale just days before. But maybe that was a work trip. Maybe the dealership paid for it. I didn't want to be judgmental. The third call came in early June. Mom, I need a root canal. Our dental insurance doesn't cover it. $2,200. Emma's voice cracked. I'm in so much pain and we just don't have it right now. I'll take care of it, I said immediately. Which dentist? I'll call them directly and pay. No, just send it to me. I'll handle it. Thanks, Mom. I transferred the money that afternoon. 2 weeks later, I ran into Emma at Target. She was coming out of the Starbucks inside, carrying a drink and shopping bags. I noticed her outfit, new Lululemon leggings, expensive sneakers, and she was wearing a different designer handbag than last time. Emma, I called out. She turned, and for just a second, I saw something flash across her face. Guilt, embarrassment. Then she smiled. Mom, what are you doing here? Just picking up some things. I nodded at her bags. How's the tooth feeling better? Oh, she touched her jaw. Yeah, much better. The root canal was last week. We chatted for a few minutes, normal mother-daughter small talk. She didn't mention the money, didn't mention paying me back. I didn't bring it up either. The fourth call came in July during a heat wave. Mom, emergency. Our air conditioning died. Can you imagine in this heat? The repair guy says we need a whole new unit, $400 to $800. I know we still owe you from before, but we're literally dying here. Brandon's been sleeping on the couch because the bedroom is like a sauna. I paused this time. Emma, that's a lot of money. Are you sure you need a whole new unit? Sometimes they can just— Mom, please. The guy explained everything. It's old, it's inefficient, it needs to be replaced. We're desperate. Okay, I said. I'll transfer it. Thank you. I promise we'll pay you back. All of it. Brandon's got this huge sale coming through, and then we'll be caught up. 2 weeks later, I stopped by their house unannounced on my way home from the grocery store. I had some tomatoes from my garden I wanted to give Emma. It was 95 degrees outside. I rang the doorbell. Brandon answered, looking relaxed in shorts and a t-shirt. Amanda, come in. He stepped aside. Excuse the mess. I walked into a blast of cold air. The house was freezing, must have been 68 degrees inside. Wow, I said. Your new AC works great. Brandon looked confused for a second. Oh, yeah, really powerful system. But as I looked around, nothing seemed new. No signs of recent installation, no warranty papers on the counter, no service stickers on any equipment. I stayed for 15 minutes, gave Emma the tomatoes, and left. In my car, I sat for a moment before starting the engine, a strange feeling settling in my stomach. That night, I opened my laptop and looked at my bank statements for the past 4 months. Transfer to Emma Taylor, $6,000 mortgage help. Transfer to Emma Taylor, $3,500 car repair. Transfer to Emma Taylor, $2. $200 dental emergency. Transfer to Emma Taylor, $4,800 AC replacement. Total $16,500 in 4 months. With no mention of repayment, no payment plan, not even an acknowledgement that these were loans and not gifts. I closed my laptop and stared at the wall of my home office. Outside, my neighbor's dog was barking. A normal summer evening in Lakewood. Everything felt normal, but something was wrong. I could feel it. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Want to come for Sunday dinner next week? I'm making pot roast. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back, Sure, sweetheart. What time Sunday arrived with clear blue skies and a gentle breeze, one of those perfect Ohio summer days. I spent the morning in my garden, then showered and changed into a nice blouse and slacks. I baked my famous apple pie, the one Emma had loved since childhood. Granny Smith apple cinnamon, a touch of nutmeg butter crust made from scratch. The drive to Emma and Brandon's house in Westlake took 25 minutes. They'd bought the place 2 years ago, right after the wedding. It was a McMansion, there's no other word for it. 4,000 square feet, brick facade, 3-car garage, professionally landscaped yard. The kind of house that screamed, we've made it whether you had or not. I pulled my dented Honda Civic into their circular driveway next to Brandon's Lexus and Emma's BMW. A new BMW, I noticed. Navy blue current year's model. When did she get that Brandon opened the door before I could knock? Amanda, He smiled, but his eyes flicked to my car. Still driving Old Faithful, I see. You know I could get you a great deal at the dealership. Get you into something newer, safer. I'm comfortable with what I have, I said, handing him the pie. Where should I put this? Kitchen. Emma's in there. He took the pie but held my gaze for a moment. Seriously though, that Honda's gotta be what 10 years old, 12 at your age. You really should be in something more reliable. At my age, I was 63, not 90. I walked past him into their house. The entryway had marble floors, a chandelier that probably cost more than my monthly pension would be. Through the archway, I could see into the living room, new furniture since my last visit, a massive 75-inch TV on the wall, expensive-looking art. Emma was in the kitchen pulling a roast from the oven. She looked thin, I noticed, too thin, and there were dark circles under her eyes, carefully covered with makeup. Mom, she set down the roast and hugged me. I'm so glad you're here. We set the table together, made small talk about her work, my garden, the weather. Normal. Everything seemed normal, but that feeling in my stomach was back stronger now. At dinner, Brandon dominated the conversation as always. I'm telling you, this was my best month ever, he said, cutting into his roast. Sold 3 S-classes in 1 week. My commission on just those 3 was over 40 grand. That's wonderful, I said politely. And we're planning a trip to Cancun in October. All-inclusive resort right on the beach. Emma deserves it after the year she's had. He reached over and squeezed her hand. Emma smiled weakly and pushed food around her plate. Brandon kept talking about his deals, his sales records, his investment ideas. He poured himself a 3rd glass of wine, then a 4th. I noticed Emma hadn't touched her wine. She was gripping her fork too tightly, her knuckles white. Then Brandon leaned back in his chair, wine glass in hand, and looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Pity, condescension. You know, Amanda, he said, Emma and I have been talking. We're worried about you. I set down my fork carefully. Worried your financial situation. He glanced at Emma, who was staring at her plate. Living alone in that small house, driving that ancient car. We know money must be tight on your salary. The room suddenly felt very cold despite the summer heat outside. I managed just fine, I said quietly. Mom never told us what she makes. Emma said so softly I almost didn't hear her. She still wasn't looking at me. Brandon laughed a sound without any real humor in it. Well, it can't be much, can it? Look at how you live, Amanda. And we know the mortgage on that house, even if it's paid off the property taxes and Lakewood, the maintenance. He shook his head. We want to help. Maybe you should think about downsizing to an apartment. We could help you budget better, make sure you're set up for retirement. Something was happening in my chest, a tightening, a coldness spreading through me. I appreciate your concern, I managed. But I'm quite comfortable. Are you, though? Brandon leaned forward. Because from where we're sitting, it doesn't look that way. And honestly, he paused, took another sip of wine. Honestly, Amanda, I'm a little embarrassed. For Emma's sake. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire. Embarrassed, I repeated. Emma deserves better than having a struggling mother. It reflects on us, you know, our friends, our social circle. When they ask about family and we have to explain that her mom is just barely scraping by. Brandon, Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Maybe we shouldn't. No, honey, someone needs to say it. He turned back to me. We've been trying to help you, Amanda. The money we've borrowed, let's be honest, you probably needed to loan it to us to justify asking for it back, didn't you? To maintain some sense of control over your limited resources. I couldn't breathe. I looked at my daughter, my only child, the girl I'd raised alone, put through college, supported through every heartbreak and triumph. She was looking at her plate, her expensive china plate, in her expensive house, wearing her expensive clothes. And she said nothing. She didn't defend me, didn't object, didn't tell her husband he was wrong. She just sat there, face flushed, silent. I stood up. My hands were steady as I folded my napkin and placed it beside my untouched plate. Where are you going? Emma finally looked up, her eyes wide. Home, I said simply. Mom, please. Brandon didn't mean, yes, he did. I picked up my purse. Thank you for dinner. Brandon actually smirked. Running away won't change your situation, Amanda. Someone had to give you a reality check. I walked to the front door, my footsteps echoing on their marble floor. Behind me, I heard Emma say, Brandon, that was too harsh. And his response, she needed to hear it. Your mother needs to face facts. I drove home in complete silence. No radio, no tears, no rage. Just a terrible crystalline clarity settling over me. When I got home, I didn't turn on the TV or pour myself a glass of wine. I went straight to my home office, turned on my laptop, and opened my bank statements. The authorized transfers were all there highlighted in my banking app. $6,000 on April 12th. Mortgage help. $3,500 May 24th. Car transmission. $2,200 June 8th. Dental emergency. $4,800 July 15th. AC replacement. Total $16,500, but as I scrolled through my savings account, something caught my eye. Transactions I didn't recognize. My hands went cold. Withdrawal. July 2nd, $2,800 transfer to E. Mitchell, Emma's maiden name. Note online banking transfer. Withdrawal. June 18th, $3,200 transfer to E. Mitchell. Note online banking transfer. Withdrawal. May 30th, $1,700 transfer to E. Mitchell. Note online banking transfer. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it. $7,700. Withdrawn from my savings account. Transfers I never authorized. Transfers I never knew about. Then I remembered 2 years ago Emma had helped me set up online banking. "Just in case you need help, Mom," she'd said. "I'll be your emergency contact." I'd added her as a joint account holder just for emergencies, just in case something happened to me. She'd had my passwords, my security questions, everything. With shaking hands, I opened an Excel spreadsheet. My analyst training kicked in even as my world tilted on its axis. Authorized loans, never repaid, $16,500 unauthorized withdrawals theft, $700 total, $24,200. My daughter had stolen from me, and then she sat silent while her husband called me embarrassing, suggested I was barely scraping by. I sat back in my desk chair. The antique clock on my desk, a retirement gift from my first boss at Morrison & Klein, ticked loudly in the silence. Outside, someone was mowing their lawn. Normal Sunday evening sounds in my quiet neighborhood. But nothing was normal anymore. I picked up my phone. For a moment, I thought about calling Emma demanding an explanation. Then I set the phone down. No, not yet. I spent the next hour documenting everything. Screenshots of every transaction. Dates, amounts, transfer methods. I checked my account settings, yes. Emma's name was still listed as joint account holder. Added in 2022 for emergency access. This wasn't an emergency. This was theft. Then I checked something else, the trust fund I'd set up for Emma years ago. I logged into that account holding my breath. The balance, $127,000. Intact. She hadn't touched it. Maybe she didn't know she could. Or maybe she was saving it for something else. It didn't matter. What mattered was that my daughter had been systematically stealing from me while her husband humiliated me for being poor. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark of my office for a long time. Then I opened my desk drawer, pulled out a fresh legal pad, and started making a list. Step 1, secure accounts. Remove Emma's access. Step 2, document everything. Step 3, find an attorney. Step 4, get proof of competence for guardianship threat. Step 5, build my case. At the bottom of the page, I wrote one more line. They wanted to embarrass me. Now they'll learn what real consequences look like. I tore off the page, folded it neatly, and put it in my purse. Tomorrow I would go to war. But tonight I made myself a cup of chamomile tea, sat in my modest living room in my modest house, and allowed myself to feel the full weight of what my daughter had done. The tears came then. Not many. I'd never been much of a crier. But enough. When they stopped, I washed my face, went to bed, and slept better than I had in months. Because for the first time in a long time, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Monday morning, I was waiting outside First Merit Bank when they opened at 9. The branch manager, Patricia Lewis, was a woman about my age with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair pulled back in a professional bun. I'd banked here for 15 years, but we'd never had more than polite conversation. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said warmly as she led me to her office. "What can I help you with today?" I placed the folder of printed bank statements on her desk. "I need to remove my daughter from my account, and I need to change all my passwords and security settings." Patricia's smile faded as she opened the folder. She studied the highlighted transactions, her expression growing more troubled with each page. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said quietly, "I hate to ask this, but did you authorize these withdrawals?" "No." She looked up at me. "I'm very sorry, but this pattern, we see it more often than you'd think. Adult children with access to elderly parents' accounts. I'm 63, I said more sharply than I intended. Not elderly. Patricia's face flushed. I apologize, I didn't mean... I know what you meant. I softened my tone. And you're right about the pattern. That's why I'm here. For the next hour, we worked through everything. Emma was removed as joint account holder. All my passwords were changed. Two-factor authentication was activated on every account. Alert systems were set up. If anyone tried to access my accounts from an unrecognized device, I'd know immediately. I'm also requesting detailed transaction records for the past 12 months, I said. Everything documented with dates times IP addresses if possible. Patricia nodded. I'll have those ready by end of business tomorrow. She paused. Mrs. Mitchell, have you considered filing a police report what your daughter did? I'm seeing an attorney this afternoon, I said, but I appreciate your help. As I stood to leave, Patricia touched my arm gently. For what it's worth, I'm sorry this happened to you. No one deserves this, especially not from family. The law offices of Richardson and Associates occupied the second floor of a red brick building 3 blocks from my house. I'd made the appointment online late Sunday night, barely sleeping. James Richardson was 58, with silver hair and the careful, measured manner of someone who'd heard every family horror story imaginable. His office walls were lined with family law books and framed certificates. I sat across from his desk and laid out my evidence. No tears, no emotion. Just facts, numbers, dates. The same way I'd presented to corporate boards for 30 years. These transactions, I pointed to the highlighted lines, were not authorized. My daughter had emergency access to my account. She used it to withdraw $7,700 over 4 months without my knowledge or permission. Richardson studied the documents through his reading glasses. And these other transfers, those I authorized when she asked, she called them emergencies, loans. She promised to pay me back. I met his eyes. None have been repaid. Total amount $24,200. He made notes on a legal pad. Mrs. Mitchell, I need to be direct with you. Unauthorized access to accounts by family members can constitute financial elder abuse. However, I know I interrupted. Prosecuting family is complicated. Most people want to resolve it privately. Exactly. He looked at me carefully. What outcome are you looking for? I want my money back. All $24,200, and I want them to know that I know what they did. Fair enough. But I need to ask before we proceed, have you shown any signs of memory problems, cognitive issues? They'll likely claim you gave permission but forgot. The question didn't offend me. It was smart. Schedule me for a full cognitive assessment, I said. I'll pass with flying colors. Richardson smiled slightly. I believe you will, but documentation is everything. He pulled out a fresh legal pad. Here's what we're going to do. I'll draft a formal demand letter detailing the unauthorized withdrawals requesting full repayment within 30 days and threatening both civil litigation and a police report if they don't comply. How soon can you send it? Wednesday. Certified mail signature required. He looked at me seriously. Mrs. Mitchell, this will likely destroy your relationship with your daughter. Once we send this letter, there's no going back. I thought about Emma's silence at that dinner table. Her husband calling me an embarrassment while she stared at her plate. The $7,700 she'd stolen while I slept, trusting her. Good, I said. I'm done going back. Over the next 2 days, I built my defense. I called everyone who could testify to my competence, my independence, my sharp mind. Dr. Sarah Bennett, my physician of 12 years, saw me Tuesday afternoon. She put me through a complete cognitive screening, memory tests, problem-solving exercises, mental status examination. I scored in the 98th percentile for my age group. Amanda, she said as she wrote her report, what your daughter is doing this is financial abuse. I'll write a letter about your health and cognitive status, and I won't charge you for it. Patricia Hayes, my best friend from Morrison & Klein, met me for coffee. We'd worked together for 15 years before she retired early to travel. Maggie, she said, using the nickname only she was allowed, I've known you since we were analyzing bond portfolios together. You're sharper now than analysts half your age. If you need me to testify, I'll be there. Ruth Anderson, my next-door neighbor for 8 years, came over Tuesday evening with a casserole. I see you every day, Amanda, she said firmly. You maintain your home, you manage your finances, you're independent and capable. If that son-in-law of Emma's tries to claim otherwise, he'll have to get through me first. By Wednesday morning, I had written statements from 5 people. Professional, detailed, unshakable. I scanned them all and emailed them to Richardson. His response came within minutes. Excellent work. This is exactly what we need. The letter goes out today. Brandon Taylor's signature scrawled and impatient. Then I waited. My phone stayed silent until 2:15 p.m. Then it exploded. The first text was from Emma. Mom, what is this, a legal letter? Then how could you do this to us? Then I'm your daughter. Then we can explain everything. Please just call me. I forwarded each message to Richardson without responding. Brandon's text started 5 minutes later, angrier. Amanda, this is insane. You're going to destroy this family over money you gave us freely. We're coming over right now to talk about this. I screenshot everything, documented everything, responded to nothing. At 4 p.m., someone started pounding on my front door. I looked through the peephole. Emma stood on my porch, her face blotchy with tears, mascara running. Brandon was beside her, jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. Mom! Emma's voice was high, desperate. Mom, I know you're in there. Please open the door. I stayed on my couch watching through the sheer curtains. Amanda, be reasonable, Brandon shouted. We can explain everything. This is a huge misunderstanding. Emma was sobbing now. Please, Mom, please, let's just talk about this like adults. My phone rang. Emma's name. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Brandon's voice grew louder. You know what? Fine, stay in there, but you're making the biggest mistake of your life, Amanda. We were trying to help you. They stayed for 23 minutes. I timed it. When they finally left, Brandon turned at the end of my walkway and looked directly at my living room window. Even from 15 feet away, I could see his expression. It wasn't remorse. It wasn't shame. It was pure rage. That night, a long text arrived from Emma. I could picture her crafting it carefully, probably with Brandon reading over her shoulder. Mom, you don't understand. Yes, I accessed your account a few times, but only when we were desperate. Brandon's commissions kept getting delayed. We have a mortgage, car payments, bills. You always said family helps family. I was going to pay you back, I swear. And the money you sent us, those were gifts. You can't just take back gifts. Please, let's talk about this like adults. This lawyer letter is crazy. People will think you're confused, that you're not thinking clearly. Is that what you want? Please call me. Please. I read it 3 times. Every sentence was manipulation. Every word was calculated. Not one genuine apology, just excuses and veiled threats. I saved the text, forwarded it to Richardson, blocked their numbers. That was my point of no return. Friday morning, Richardson called. His voice was tight. They've responded through an attorney. Brandon's family apparently has a lawyer on retainer. My stomach dropped. What do they say? They're claiming all money was given as gifts, that you never indicated expectation of repayment, that the account access was explicitly so Emma could help manage your finances due to your, and I quote, advancing age and confusion. Heat flooded my face. Advancing age and confusion. I managed corporate portfolios for 30 years. I know, it's a standard defense strategy, but Amanda, there's more. He paused. They're threatening to file for guardianship. They're claiming you're mentally unstable and making irrational financial decisions. The room tilted. Guardianship. They wanted to take control of my life. Can they do that? My voice sounded small. It's likely just a threat, a scare tactic, but we need to be prepared for them to escalate. Another pause. They're also claiming you promised to help them financially, that you encouraged them to buy their house knowing they'd need support, that you're now reneging on family commitments out of spite. I closed my eyes. This was Brandon's work, the sales tactics, the spin, the reframing. He was good at this. What do we do? I asked. We stay the course, we document everything, and we prepare for battle. But I wasn't prepared for what came next. Saturday morning, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. Without thinking, I answered. Amanda, Brandon's voice was controlled, too controlled. We need to talk, face to face. I should have hung up. Instead, I stayed silent. I know you're angry, he continued, but you're making a terrible mistake. Emma's been crying for 3 days straight. She's your daughter, your only child. Is money really worth losing her? You stole from me, Brandon. We borrowed. His voice sharpened. There's a difference, and you knew Emma was checking the account. You said it was fine for emergencies. Real emergencies. not to fund your lifestyle while you called me poor. Silence on the other end. Then softer. I apologize for what I said at dinner. I'd had too much wine. I said things I didn't mean. You haven't apologized, not once, until right now when you need something. I'm apologizing now. His tone shifted, became almost pleading. Amanda, please. Let's sit down together, you, me, and Emma. We'll work out a payment plan, but you have to drop this legal threat. It's humiliating. Emma's friends know about it. My colleagues are asking questions. You're embarrassing us. The laugh that escaped me was harsh foreign. I'm embarrassing you. We didn't steal anything. His volume rose. You gave us that money willingly, and if you try to claim otherwise, we'll fight you. We'll show everyone that you're confused, that you're making these accusations because you're lonely and bitter and what, Brandon? His voice went cold, calculated. We'll prove you need protection from yourself. Guardianship, Amanda. Think about what that means. You'll end up in some facility while we manage your affairs. Is that what you want? Because keep pushing us, and that's exactly where this ends. He hung up. I sat there, phone trembling in my hand. For the first time since this began, I felt genuine fear. Not of losing money, of losing my freedom. That afternoon they came back. But this time they brought reinforcements. I saw them through my front window, Emma Brandon and an older woman I recognized, Carol Taylor Brandon's mother. She was 67, elegant in a cream cardigan, her silver hair styled perfectly. We'd always gotten along well at family gatherings. She'd seemed kind. They knocked, rang the doorbell. Carol called through the mail slot. Amanda, dear, it's Carol. Please, let's talk. Family shouldn't solve problems through lawyers. I watched from behind my curtains. Carol looked genuinely concerned. Emma was crying again, or performing crying, I couldn't tell anymore. Brandon stood slightly behind them, arms crossed. Mom, Emma sobbed. Please, I'm sorry. I made mistakes, but this is killing me. You're my mother. How can you do this? The guilt pressed down on me like a physical weight. She was my daughter, my only child. The baby I'd raised alone, protected, loved. Then I saw it. Brandon's hand on Emma's shoulder, squeezing. A signal. Emma glanced at him, then cried harder. Performance. This was all performance. I didn't open the door. They stayed for 15 minutes before leaving. Brandon's face as he walked away was pure fury. That night I packed a bag and checked into a Holiday Inn Express 2 towns over. Just for a few days. Just until I felt safe in my own home again. I needed distance. I needed to think without fear of them showing up. 3 days passed quietly. I walked in a nearby park, ate simple meals, ignored calls from unknown numbers, let my mind settle. By Tuesday, the fear had crystallized into something harder, colder, determination. I checked out of the hotel Wednesday morning and drove home. A gift basket sat on my doorstep. Expensive chocolates, imported wine, gourmet cheeses. The card read, Mom, we love you. Please forgive us. Let's start over. Emma and Brandon. I brought it inside and threw the entire thing in the trash. Card and all. An hour later, flowers arrived. 2 dozen red roses. Another card, Family is forever. Don't let pride destroy us. I called the florist and told them to stop accepting orders for my address. Friday morning, my doorbell rang at 9 o'clock. I checked the peephole carefully. A well-dressed woman in her 50s stood on my porch carrying a leather briefcase. Professional. Unfamiliar. I opened the door with the chain lock still engaged. Yes. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Jennifer Walsh, attorney at law. She held up a business card. I'm representing Carol Taylor. May I come in? I think you'll want to hear what I have to say. Carol Taylor, Brandon's mother. Every instinct screamed trap, but something in Jennifer Walsh's expression made me pause. She didn't look aggressive. She looked troubled. I removed the chain and let her in. We sat in my living room and Jennifer got straight to the point. Mrs. Mitchell Carroll hired me 3 days ago after she learned the full extent of what her son has been doing to you. She pulled folders from her briefcase. She's horrified. She had no idea about the theft or the guardianship threats. When she found out, she took action. What kind of action? Jennifer laid documents across my coffee table. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan agreements. Carol hired a private investigator to examine Brandon and Emma's finances. She pointed to highlighted sections. What we found is deeply troubling. I leaned forward, my analyst instincts kicking in. Brandon and Emma have total debt of $340,000, Jennifer said quietly. The house is mortgaged at 95% of its value. They have 17 credit cards all maxed out. Brandon's been taking cash advances from one card to make minimum payments on others. It's a classic debt spiral. My stomach turned. $340,000. But there's more. Jennifer's voice dropped. Brandon's been embezzling from his dealership. Small amounts at first, $500 here, $800 there. It's escalated. Over the past 8 months, he's stolen approximately $87,000 from his employer. The room tilted. Does the dealership know? Not yet, but they will. Jennifer met my eyes. Carol found the evidence herself, bank deposits that don't match his commission schedule, cash transfers he can't explain. She's the one who reported it, to the dealership and to the police. She reported her own son. She's disgusted by what he's become. The lying, the theft from you, the threats. Jennifer paused. Mrs. Mitchell Brandon will be arrested, probably within the next week. His employer is working with the Financial Crimes Unit right now, building their case. I sat back, processing. Brandon, arrogant, controlling Brandon, was about to lose everything. Why are you telling me this? Jennifer pulled out another document. Carol wants to make this right. She's offering to pay your full $24 $200 plus all your legal fees immediately. In exchange, you drop the civil lawsuit against Brandon and Emma. Why would she do that? Because she's ashamed. Because she likes you and believes you deserve justice. And because Jennifer's expression softened. She knows that when Brandon is arrested, Emma will have no one. The house will go into foreclosure. Emma will likely file bankruptcy. Carol hopes that by settling your financial claim now, you might eventually be able to reconcile with your daughter. That's up to you, of course. But at least the money won't be an obstacle. I stared at the papers on my coffee table. Carol was offering me everything I'd asked for. Clean, simple, final. When will Brandon be arrested? Detective Morgan from the Financial Crimes Unit told Carol probably Wednesday, next week. The dealership is finalizing their internal audit. Does Brandon know? No, neither does Emma. A thought formed in my mind. Cold, strategic. I'll accept Carol's offer, I said slowly. On one condition. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. What's that? Carol tells them nothing until after Brandon's arrested. I want them to walk into that deposition on Wednesday thinking they still have control, thinking they're going to intimidate me into backing down. A small smile crossed Jennifer's face. Carol thought you might say something like that. She agrees completely. We shook hands. Jennifer pulled out settlement papers already prepared. Carol had anticipated my answer. Within 20 minutes, I'd signed everything. The money will be in your account by Monday, Jennifer said as she packed up her briefcase. And Mrs. Mitchell, for what it's worth, Carol says she's sorry for what her son put you through. After she left, I sat in my living room for a long time. Brandon thought he was hunting me. Thought I was the weak one, the confused one, the one who needed protection. He had no idea that the trap was already sprung, and he was the one caught in it. The deposition was scheduled for Wednesday at 2 p.m. I had 5 days to prepare, but I wasn't preparing a defense anymore. I was preparing to watch everything Brandon had built come crashing down. And this time, I wouldn't look away.